You're closer to your dream life than you think. In fact, you're already connected to the version of yourself living that exact reality. The universe is constantly listening for your signal, not what you say you want, but who you're actually being moment by moment. But here's what will change everything for you. Most people spend their entire lives trying to reach their dream reality when they should be tuning into it. They're operating under a fundamental misunderstanding of how consciousness works. They think they need to build their way to their desires, when in reality, they need to align their way to them. Right now, there's a version of you already experiencing everything you've been dreaming about. This isn't some abstract concept or wishful thinking. It's happening at a frequency level. Through quantum entanglement, one of nature's most mysterious forces, you're already wired to that version of yourself. Not someday when you're ready, not after you fix yourself. Today. And here's the part that most spiritual teachers won't tell you. You don't need to become worthy of your dream life. You don't need to heal every trauma, clear every block, or perfect every aspect of yourself first. The version of you living that life already exists, and they're not waiting for you to be perfect. They're waiting for you to remember who you really are. The real question isn't whether that dream life exists. It's why you haven't synchronized with it yet. When your progress feels blocked, when your desires seem impossible to reach, it's not because they're actually distant. It's because your current sense of self is still connected to a version of you that hesitates, procrastinates, and undermines your own success. The instant you transform who you know yourself to be, not just in your mind, but in your entire being, reality starts reorganizing itself around you. Here's what most people miss. They never discover how this actually operates. They exhaust themselves trying to create change through external action, grinding, stressing, forcing outcomes. Even those who discover spiritual principles make the same fundamental error. They attempt to imagine their way into a different life, rather than dissolving the identity that keeps them locked in the current one. This isn't another manifestation tutorial or attraction principle breakdown. This is about dismantling reality itself and learning to collapse parallel timelines. We're exploring where two revolutionary concepts intersect: quantum entanglement and dimensional shifting. Entanglement reveals why your internal state directly impacts physical matter, why your emotional frequency shapes your experiences, and why your unconscious programming doesn't operate in a vacuum. You're constantly transmitting a signal into the quantum matrix. That signal isn't your affirmations or intentions. It's your vibrational essence. It's how your core identity dances with infinite possibility. Dimensional shifting, meanwhile, gets completely misinterpreted. It's not fantasy. It's not denial of current circumstances. It's an identity recalibration that enables you to navigate between interconnected realities. Realities where alternate versions of yourself are already living, breathing, and waiting to be acknowledged, activated, and embodied. Here's what will blow your mind. You've experienced this before. That instant when you made a choice and your entire world shifted immediately. That was a dimensional jump. That flash of awareness where you suddenly saw yourself from a completely different angle. That was a timeline fluctuation. That deep knowing that you're destined for something bigger. That's not imagination. That's your evolved self bleeding through the dimensional barriers. But let me share something that will revolutionize how you see this process. Every single person who has ever achieved something extraordinary didn't create their success from scratch. They accessed a version of themselves that already existed in potential. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most aligned, most powerful, most like the real you. In those moments, you weren't becoming someone new. You were remembering someone who was always there. The ancient mystics understood this. They knew that enlightenment wasn't about gaining something new, but about removing everything that wasn't authentically you. They understood that transformation happens not through addition, but through subtraction. Not through becoming more, but through becoming clear. In quantum reality, time doesn't move in straight lines. It exists in layers. This means your future self can influence you backward just as powerfully as you can reach forward. You're in constant communication with the version of yourself who has already succeeded. That connection is live right now. And here's something that will shift your entire perspective. That successful version of you. They remember being where you are right now. They remember the exact moment when everything changed. And they're sending you signals, breadcrumbs, intuitive hits to help you make the same shift they made. The question is, are you listening? This is the formula. This is the breakthrough. The quantum field doesn't require your struggle. It requires your alignment. It requires your precision. It requires your frequency to harmonize with what you're calling in. Not through words, but through your very existence. So we're going to tear apart everything you believed about creating change and walk through the most powerful mechanism you've never completely grasped. How quantum entanglement makes dimensional shifting not just possible, but unavoidable once you understand the mechanics. This won't involve visualization exercises. This won't be about hoping, wishing, or efforting. This is about identity dissolution, frequency calibration, and understanding reality as programmable code. Coming up, I'll reveal exactly how entanglement operates, not just with subatomic particles, but within your personal experience. We'll explore the science, but more crucially, I'll demonstrate how this explains every moment when your reality has felt misaligned or stuck. The version of you living your ideal life is already entangled with you. Let's discover why you haven't made the jump. Quantum entanglement isn't theoretical speculation. It's among the most rigorously proven and mysteriously puzzling discoveries in contemporary physics. Put simply, it demonstrates that two particles, once unified, stay connected in a way where altering one immediately influences the other, regardless of the distance separating them. Einstein famously called it spooky action at a distance. But here's what mainstream science avoids discussing. What this means for your consciousness, your identity, and your lived experience. If matter operates this way, why wouldn't you? You're not an isolated particle floating in emptiness. You're a dynamic, living consciousness field. Just like those particles, you've become entangled not only with other people, but with parallel versions of yourself existing across different timelines. Versions that chose differently, that trusted their instincts, that moved through healing instead of avoiding it, that leaped instead of hesitating, that decided instead of questioning everything. You're not cut off from these versions. You're oscillating in harmony or discord with them. This creates the version of yourself that the quantum field mirrors back as your current reality. But here's the malfunction. Most people remain entangled with the version of themselves still in survival mode, still clinging, still operating from fear. Not by choice, but through conditioning, through repetition, through unprocessed experiences, through identity patterns so embedded they've become invisible. Whatever you stay entangled with, you strengthen, you broadcast, you materialize into your experience. And this is where it gets really interesting. Your entanglement isn't just with past versions of yourself. You're also entangled with collective consciousness, with family patterns, with societal expectations. Most people are unconsciously broadcasting signals that don't even belong to them. They're living out their parents' limitations, their culture's beliefs about what's possible, their generation's fears. Breaking free from these inherited patterns is one of the most powerful things you can do. When you realize that most of your reality is actually just recycled programming from people who came before you, everything changes. You start to see that your limitations aren't personal, they're generational. And that means they can be dissolved just as easily as they were adopted. When someone says, "I've been trying to manifest for years, but it never works," the problem isn't their dedication. It's that their signal, the deep, unconscious transmission, is still broadcasting from the version of them that doubts, that remains paralyzed, that doesn't embody the new reality as if it's already here. But here's what most people don't realize. The universe isn't withholding your desires from you. You're withholding yourself from your desires. Every time you choose doubt over trust, every time you choose fear over love, every time you choose the familiar over the unknown, you're essentially saying no to the reality that's trying to emerge through you. This is where the quantum field becomes uncompromising. It doesn't respond to wanting. It doesn't respond to pleading. It doesn't even respond to visualization by itself. It responds to frequency. And your frequency isn't shaped by what you focus on for 10 minutes during meditation. It's determined by what you embody throughout every moment of your existence. You are the witness. The witness collapses the timeline. But which version of you is doing the witnessing? This is the question that never gets asked. And it's why transformation remains elusive for most people. Because shifting isn't an action you take. It's a being you become. And here's something that will completely reframe how you approach change. You can't quantum jump from a state of desperation. You can't shift timelines from a place of, "I need this to be happy." The quantum field responds to wholeness, not neediness. It responds to celebration, not desperation. It responds to gratitude for what already is, not anxiety about what isn't. This is why so many people struggle with manifestation. They're trying to use their desired reality to escape their current reality, instead of using their current reality as a launching pad into their desired reality. They're trying to manifest from a vibration of lack instead of abundance, from fear instead of love, from "I don't have" instead of "I am." The most powerful manifestors I know don't manifest from wanting. They manifest from overflow. They're so full of appreciation for what they already have that their desires feel like natural extensions of their gratitude, not desperate attempts to fill a void. You can't quantum jump into your dream reality if you're still operating from the version of yourself that feels undeserving. You can't shift timelines by visualizing abundance while making choices rooted in scarcity. The quantum field doesn't listen to your words. It attunes to what you're entangled with, what you reinforce through your actions, your attention, your energetic output. Sometimes the version of you who already has what you want is actively reaching out. You sense it in sudden insights, in vivid dreams, in moments when reality feels translucent. You catch glimpses of that parallel life. Not because you're fantasizing, but because you're merging with it. It's merging with you. The bridge is already constructed. The question becomes, how much longer will you pretend it doesn't exist? Next, I'll walk you through exactly how to start re-entangling your field. Not through positive thinking or mindset shifts, but through deliberate, conscious identity dissolution. This is how we make the jump. This is how we break the patterns. This is how we exit the loop and enter the flow. But pause here for a moment. If this resonates deeply with you, it means you're remembering something forgotten, not learning something new. Remembering. This is what happens when entanglement comes alive. You don't discover fresh information. You recognize ancient truth. So if something stirred within you while experiencing this, here's what I want you to do. Subscribe to this channel. Not for my benefit, for yours. For the version of you that's ready to activate. And share something in the comments. Which timeline are you exhausted from living? Not the one you desire, but the one you're prepared to dissolve. Name it openly, acknowledge it. This becomes your first step toward release. Are you ready to learn the method? You've been entangled with the version of yourself that questions everything, that postpones action, that settles for less. But the version of you who has already transformed, it's not somewhere else. It's already witnessing through your eyes. The only reason you haven't embodied it is because the identity you're currently reinforcing keeps pulling you back into the same story. It's time to reprogram the witness. Listen, every single moment, you're selecting which version of yourself looks out through your eyes. Most people never realize this choice exists. They believe they are their thoughts, their patterns, their character traits. But all of that is just programming. What they forget is that you're the one selecting the software, and you can restart the system whenever you choose. This is the secret to quantum jumping. Not becoming someone different, but stopping the observation from the self that's entangled with limitation. The shift doesn't happen through doing. It happens through collapsing. So how do we execute this? Let's begin with what you won't be doing. You won't visualize. You won't repeat mantras. You won't close your eyes and imagine yourself elsewhere. Not initially. That's how the old identity attempts to escape reality. But jumping isn't escaping. It's reclaiming your power. We start with a single element, conscious awareness. Begin by asking yourself this question immediately, without hesitation. Which version of me is currently creating this life? What do they believe? What scares them? What core assumptions about reality do they hold? How do they talk to themselves in private moments? But go deeper than just surface-level beliefs. Ask yourself, what does this version of me think they deserve? What do they believe is possible for someone like them? What story do they tell themselves about why they can't have what they want? Really feel into the energy of this identity. Notice how they hold their body, how they breathe, what their default emotional state is. This is crucial because most people try to change their external reality without ever examining the internal identity that's creating it. They want different results while maintaining the same sense of self. But quantum mechanics doesn't work that way. The observer creates the reality, so if you want a different reality, you need a different observer. Really sink into this inquiry. You'll begin to detect a pattern, an energetic signature, a heaviness in your chest, or tension in your shoulders. This isn't random. This is the current witness's fingerprint, and you've been collapsing reality through this lens for years. And here's what's fascinating. Once you really see this old identity clearly, you'll probably feel compassion for it. You'll understand that this version of you was just trying to keep you safe, trying to protect you from disappointment, trying to manage the overwhelming nature of infinite possibility by keeping you small and predictable. Now here's the follow-up question. And it might be the most crucial one you'll ever ask yourself. Am I ready to let that version of me dissolve? Because this is what a true jump represents. It's not a leap between worlds. It's a conscious death. It's the gentle, intentional, sacred dissolution of the self that can no longer support your evolution. Most people resist this release, not because the old self serves them, but because it's known. Familiar suffering, familiar obstacles, familiar identity. Even pain can feel safe when you've built a life around explaining why you can't change. But right now, in this exact moment, you have the power to choose differently. Here's the methodology. It doesn't need a complex name. It's not a system. It's a conscious realignment in 3 phases. Phase 1, acknowledge. Sit in complete presence with the version of yourself you're ready to dissolve. Allow them to express. Allow them to be witnessed. Not criticized, witnessed. Most timelines don't dissolve because they're fought against. They dissolve because they're outgrown with compassion. Phase 2, release. This is where you shift the entanglement. Declare aloud or silently a fundamental truth. This is no longer my identity. I release this version. I dissolve this witness. You'll encounter resistance. This is expected. The old self will fight for survival, but it only has authority if you continue believing its voice represents who you are. Phase 3, embody. Once the field clears, embody the new identity. Don't just think about it. Become it. Stand the way they stand. Breathe the way they breathe. Make decisions from their frequency. Don't wonder, what would my ideal self do? Instead ask, what does that version refuse to accept? Then refuse to accept it starting now. And here's a crucial piece that most people miss. The new identity isn't someone you become in the future. It's someone you remember from the past. Before the world told you who you should be, before you learned to doubt yourself, before you started playing small, there was a version of you that knew exactly who they were and what they were capable of. That version still exists. They're not gone. They're just buried under layers of conditioning. When you step into your new identity, you're not becoming someone fake or artificial. You're returning to your authentic self. You're coming home to who you've always been underneath all the programming. These phases aren't a single ceremony. They become your way of existing. Every day, every breath reinforces the new entanglement. Over time, not years, but energetic cycles. The field must adjust because quantum mechanics demands it. The witness collapses the probability wave into reality. Reality conforms to the identity of the witness, but only when that identity remains consistent. And consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means returning again and again to your new identity, even when you forget, even when you slip back into old patterns, even when the world tries to convince you that you're still the old version of yourself. Here's the beautiful truth. The version of you already living your dream life isn't a stranger. It's not some future character. It's a blueprint encoded in your consciousness field. A pathway that remains open, waiting for you to step onto it. We'll explore what happens post-jump, because jumping isn't the conclusion. It's the start of integration. Without proper integration, even the most powerful shift will collapse under the pressure of old programming, attempting to reassert control. For now, sit with this inquiry. What aspects of my old self am I still allowing to make choices in my life, despite having evolved beyond them? Do they still deserve to speak for who I am becoming? Take a breath. Not just for oxygen, for your timeline. Because if you've stayed with this message until now, you've already initiated something most people never have the courage to begin. You've questioned the authority of your past conditioning. You've challenged the identity that's been writing your reality. That questioning alone starts the transformation. You might not feel like you've jumped yet, but you've already shifted. Something has opened, a connection has loosened, a signal has been transmitted. And this is how every quantum leap begins. Not with drama, but with frequency adjustment. Which brings us to this point. You've done it. You've dissolved the old self. You've released the version of you that kept you cycling. You've stepped into a new identity, even if only for moments. In that instant, the field responded. A new witness assumed control of your experience. But now we enter the part nobody discusses, the stabilization. Because jumping doesn't just mean accessing a new timeline. It means becoming stable within it. Like any system that's operated on the same frequency for years, when you suddenly install new identity software, there will be interference. You'll start noticing unusual things. People might interact with you differently. Not because you've changed your words, but because they sense the shift. Energy moves faster than language. Your behavior will subtly adjust. Certain conversations will feel empty. Some relationships might become unstable, not because you're rejecting anyone, but because they're calibrated to your previous version, the one you just released. And this is where it gets really interesting. Some people in your life might resist your transformation, not because they don't want you to be happy, but because your evolution challenges their own comfort zone. When you step into a new version of yourself, you're essentially showing everyone around you that change is possible. And for people who have convinced themselves that they're stuck, your transformation can feel threatening. Don't take this personally. It's not about you. It's about their relationship with their own potential. Some people will celebrate your growth. Others will try to pull you back into your old patterns. Your job isn't to convince them or manage their discomfort. Your job is to stay committed to your evolution, regardless of how others respond. But here's the most surprising part. The old timeline might attempt to reclaim you, not as punishment or failure, but as a vibrational aftershock. You might suddenly feel confused, emotional, or uncertain. Not because you've made an error, but because you've exited a familiar frequency and your nervous system is still adjusting. This is where most people give up. They interpret these feelings as signs that they're on the wrong path, when actually they're signs that they're on exactly the right path. Growing pains are called growing pains for a reason. They're not pleasant, but they're necessary. This is completely natural. Picture finally tuning a radio away from static after years. Initially, there will be overlap, competing signals, ghost transmissions. Within that noise, the old identity might whisper, "Nothing's actually changed. You're still the same person." This becomes your test, not of willpower, but of clarity. Because reality doesn't shift smoothly, it shifts quantumly. The moment you step into a new state, everything incompatible with it begins to fall away, and what falls away often resists before it dissolves. You'll be tempted to interpret discomfort as evidence of failure, but discomfort simply confirms that old programming is breaking down. This is precisely when most people reverse their jump. They collapse back into the familiar witness. Not because it was superior, but because it was predictable. So how do you remain anchored in the new timeline? You don't force it. You don't perform it. You anchor it. Anchoring doesn't mean compulsive affirmations. It doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect when it isn't. It means responding to life from your new identity, even when external circumstances haven't updated yet. This becomes the true test of coherence. When your bank account still reflects limitation, but you respond from abundance. When your relationships still feel challenging, but you speak from completeness. When fear approaches and you respond as your highest self, not your most conditioned one. Each time you choose the new witness in thought, emotion, and action, you stabilize the field. Here's what the quantum realm teaches us. It doesn't reward effort. It mirrors consistency. The universe isn't examining you. It's listening to you. Every subtle vibration you emit communicates who you believe yourself to be. So instead of asking, "Why hasn't my external reality shifted yet?" ask, "Which version of myself have I been reinforcing today?" This is where the jump becomes permanent. Not during moments of inspiration, but during moments of uncertainty. When you repeatedly choose to be who you decided to become. Yes, you will fluctuate. You will forget. You will occasionally collapse back into old patterns. But each time you remember, each time you breathe and return to the new identity, you retune the field. Eventually, the old frequencies lose power. They fade. What once required effort becomes natural, flowing, inevitable. You're not pretending until you succeed. You're embodying until you stabilize. There's a profound difference. At some point, without even realizing it, you'll look around and notice that the external world has transformed. Not because you forced it, but because you became unshakable in your frequency. You stopped reacting from scarcity. You stopped negotiating with limitations. You stopped amplifying the voice that never believed in your potential. When that voice no longer controls the channel, reality has no option but to update the programming. Here's what I want you to contemplate. What's one decision you can make today that only the version of you in the new timeline would make? Not a massive leap, just one choice, one adjustment, one aligned moment of coherence. Because that's all it takes to begin reinforcing the new field. Next, we'll complete the circle. We'll discuss how to live in sustained quantum awareness, where jumping transforms from something you do into something you are. We'll integrate everything you've learned into a way of perceiving, living, and transmitting that upgrades not only your life, but your entire timeline. And so the integration begins. Not the leap that already occurred. Not the challenge. That was part of the recalibration. This is the moment when everything within you settles, realigns, and finds its new center. When the new version of you becomes the only version that feels authentic. Something profound happens when you consistently choose alignment over chaos. The new identity stops feeling like a costume. It stops feeling like a performance. Without conscious effort, you've become the version you used to imagine. Not through force, but because you stopped nourishing the one who couldn't sustain it. This represents true integration, where decisions feel calmer, yet more profound, where responses emerge from authenticity rather than defensiveness, where you no longer argue with outdated thoughts because they don't belong to your current field. They were echoes from a previous reality, from a previous you, and they cannot survive in this new space. This is quantum mechanics made practical. Not theory, not metaphor, but your actual existence. You'll notice that old triggers stop affecting you. You'll feel emotions surface and dissolve without becoming your entire identity. You'll communicate differently. You'll move differently. Not because you're trying to act like someone new, but because you're no longer pretending to be someone you've outgrown. This completes the cycle. The witness who previously collapsed your reality has been replaced, not through magic, but through choice, consistency, breath, and awareness. As this shift occurs, the entire field surrounding you, people, opportunities, synchronicities, begins organizing into new configurations. Not because reality is rewarding you, but because reality is simply responding to the truth of who you've become. What happens next? You live it fully. You move. You awaken. You feel. Each time life presents you with contrast, and it will, you ask yourself one essential question. Which version of me is being called forward right now? That's the key. That's the code. That's the gateway. You're not meant to live through control. You're meant to live through signal transmission. Your signal becomes clearer with every aligned choice, every conscious breath, every moment of remembering. Because ultimately, you didn't jump into a different timeline. You collapsed the illusion of separation between you and the version of yourself who was always there. That life was never truly distant. That self was never unreachable. The entanglement was always active. You simply stopped dismissing it. Now the only thing remaining is to live as if this is your natural state, because when it becomes natural, it becomes permanent. Your timeline doesn't upgrade through force. It upgrades through embodiment. Take a breath now. Feel what's shifted in your body. Not what you hope has changed, but what you already recognize. That's your signal. That's your foundation. That's your evidence. Before you leave, consider this. If this message reached you at exactly the right moment, if it awakened something timeless within you, then this is your invitation to not let chance decide when you remember again. Subscribe to this channel not because you're supposed to, but because something within you wants to stay connected to this field, this resonance, this rhythm, this frequency you now carry. Share in the comments not just what shifted, but what new reality you're ready to embody. Express it in even one sentence, not as a hope, but as a recognition. Let your words become the signal that tells the field, I'm already here. Because when you name the life you're now living, you activate it in others, and the field responds accordingly. This is how we transform together. The most crucial piece missing from most people's quantum work is understanding the observer effect and how releasing your old identity creates instant reality shifts. Watch this next video to discover why letting go of who you were is the fastest path to transformation.